Okay. So, welcome healers to this healer seminar. We want to go over war basics, basically, for anybody who wants to war as a healer to become war ready. There's a lot of different roles. There's a lot of different positions to play as a healer, but it all is, it's way less different than all of the different DPS roles or all the different support roles. So, I think we'll be able to get through this in an hour or so. But at the end of the day, it's really important to always remember that every player needs healers. Like if people don't get healed, they die. Even if they got shirking heals on, they die if they don't have a healer. You got in a 5v5 fight. If it's everybody who's played threes knows this. Like if the enemy team has a healer and you don't have a healer, your win percentage just went way down. So even though healers get shit on this game all the time, because of the way the social stuff in this game works, healers are really important. So, speak with power and speak with confidence. You're in control. You have a voice in your group. It's very important. So, as always with New World is both about soldiering and individual skill. So, if you're cracked, like you can get away with a lot of things, and if the scoreboard proves it, like you can do what you want. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of people playing this game and who have figured out a lot of things, so it's really important to start from the baseline of what people have figured out about this game, and where there's a lot of people who play this game a lot and the stuff that they have found out. So, and that is true for basically every class and every role in this game. So just to frame healing a little bit, overall in New World, I think it's important to think about healing in different formats. And the formats that I like to think about are Outpost Rush, 3v3s, War, and Open World PvP. And what's great is that all these modes are really fun, and all these modes support lots of different builds. Now, what we're going to focus on here is War, specifically. Because War is the most competitive environment. It's where there's the most on the line. There are people who, play this game all day, every day, and the reason they do that is because they want to be good at War. And those are the people who are seeking high status. Those are the people who are celebrated in this game. And so it's very competitive, and it's really hard to play your weird meme off-meta builds in those kind of formats. So in War specifically, because that's where there's lots and lots of damage. So speaking of lots of damage, we really have to output a lot of healing in War. So everybody has to be in light armor. All the healers have to be in light armor. It's just such a big punish to be in medium or to be in heavy armor as a healer. Even though heavy is really strong, and even though the difference in medium is not that big, the light roll is just so powerful that being in light is just too important. At the same time, kill time in this game is high enough is low enough. Like if you're dying, you're just getting exploded. You're getting caught, and lots of people are damaging you. So even if you are in medium armor, you're still gonna get caught and exploded. So at the end of the day, you're actually more survivable in light. So on top of that, when we're framing healing like this, there's really two kinds of healers when you look at it at a high level. There's AoE healers and there are group healers, and that's really comes down to whether you've got Orb of Protection and Beacon, or whether you have Divine Embrace and Splash of Light. And that's whether you're a group healer, running with your 5-man, paying attention really close to their life totals, seeing, oh, there's a big axe that's about to do a heavy attack on my guy. I'm going to start casting a Divine Embrace on that guy right now, just in case that heavy attack hits him. They're running this way. I'm going to put a Sacred right down where they're about to engage the enemy. Versus being an AoE healer, where you're trying to watch all your blues and trying to find a big spot to shoot your orb, and a person who's about to run into the clump to put your beacon onto, or put your Sacred down on the big group fight. And they're very different play styles, but and they have different gear and different perks, but we're going to go over all of that. Speaking of which, we're going to get into the builds now. Again, this is the War context, and so in a war, we're probably going to have about, between 12 to 14 healers. I expect that there's going to be 1 or 2 AoE healers in the whole army. So out of 50 people, it's only 1 or 2 AoE healers. It's a pretty competitive role. And then you're going to have about 10 group healers. Hopefully you're going to get 1 group healer per group. And then, depending on offense versus defense and how the meta shifts. Maybe maybe that flexes a little bit here and there. There also two of the group healers are probably playing Beacon on top of the, or one or two of the group healers play Beacon instead of either Clap or, I shouldn't be calling it Clap, I should call it Splash of Light or Divine Embrace. You're playing a Beacon because Beacon does not stack with other beacons. So even though it's a pretty powerful AoE heal and it's good to have multiple of them, you really only want maybe 2 or 3 in the army as a whole. Speaking of all of these sort of different skill setups for war, it's important to think about the score breakdown that happens for all of those. Because really, no matter what, the AoE healer is going to have the top score, then the 2 or 3 beacon healers are going to have the next 3 slots, and then the rest of the group healers that are using DE and Splash of Light are going to be underneath that, because Splash of Light really can only heal 5 people in the whole army in the first place. So, and that's just kind of like a reality that all healers have to understand, and all raid leaders also have to understand, because like, it's not fair to evaluate healers against other healers who are in those other brackets, because their heal potential is just in a completely different scope. So don't judge yourself on the scoreboard in that sense, healers. So let's talk about the healing roles a little bit more specifically, individually now. Let's talk about group healer and then AoE healer. For group heals, we have this is backwards. I have the wrong gear set, I guess. 1 second. Oh, well, I'll just remake this real quick. So this is the group heals build. And with sort of one free point depending on what you like to do. And that is you take Divine Embrace and you take Splash of Light as your 2 individual heals, and you always take Sacred Ground because this ability is really strong. You got to make sure to take Blissful Touch, which this makes your light attacks heal when they go through stuff. And always take Revitalize. I mean, this is very standard with Life Staff. I don't think I need to go over all of these, but Revitalize is super important. Whenever you hit with a light attack, reduce your cooldowns by 5%. This is the bread and butter of Life Staff. You got to be doing this all the time. You got to be thinking about this inside your head. This is like the cornerstone of playing the Life Staff, is you spend your abilities and then you reset your cooldowns all the time. And always make sure that you're trying to heal people under 50%, because you get this boost from Divine Blessing, and then also it makes your Divine Embrace bounce. You can get off some really gnarly heals with this. Heal 3 people for 12k each. It's pretty crazy. And always also remember that Splash of Light, it removes a debuff. That's what's one of the especially good things about this. Right now we're in this Fire Staff Plague meta, so it's important to think about using Splash of Light before using your single target heal sometimes, because maybe you've got a DPS who's at 25%, and if you Divine Embrace right there, even if it's like an under 50% one, maybe it'd only heal them for 2 or 3 or 4k because they're so plagued, and you got to clap first, and then you can DE them back up to full. Also for group heals, you're going to be playing the Rapier with with defensive abilities. No matter what, you're going to want Evade with all of its abilities, and you want Flesh with at least the first 3 perks. There's a couple of these that give you stamina back or refresh your cooldown that are important to take also. And I personally am a huge fan of Riposte, and this is the classic use of the Rapiers to use Riposte. But more and more healers are losing Riposte and taking Flourish and Finish, because it also has a stagger and it has a dash associated with it. I'm not good at using it yet, so I don't take it, but more and more healers are taking that as well. To go back to the Life Staff real quick, there's this last perk that people take, that people can choose to take. Some people like to take Enchanted Justice, which is a small heal over time. I do not like taking the heavy attack perks because I'm focused on trying to reset my cooldowns with light attacks. But there's also this, when you get hit under 50%, you gain a little bit of haste. So this is the one I like to take personally, because I'm a group healer who likes to be up in the fray, so I'm getting hit a lot. Now let's talk about we have to talk about items and stats too.
I say one thing about that poke.
Yeah, please go for it, Issue.
It's nothing against your build. It's just a lot of life fire staffs earning a large. I can't even pronounce it. The punishment perk for haste.
Oh,
They do
Alacritus
20%
punishment.
more. Yeah, they do 20% more damage when you have haste. So like if you have flamethrowers on you, you get build at 50, you automatically get that haste. You're taking 20%
Whoa.
more.
I've been
So
throwing.
just, well, I don't know if it's like that big of a deal or not,
Well, yeah,
but
but
it's
that's
just
a really good point to notice. And the way
yeah.
that I'll just think about this out loud. One of the things that I do a lot is look in my VODs or try to think about every time that I die. Oh, why did I die? What did this happen from? And try to see, really try to eliminate those situations. And if I'm playing this, like lately in the past couple of days, everybody's been playing heavy flamethrower, and I'm just getting, it's no fun to play against. So if this, provides better survivability against that, or if not taking this provides better survivability, I'm excited to see how that feels different.
I would I would always say intensify if you can do your autos and heavies, but
Yeah, the problem is that heavy attacks do not trigger revitalize, um, and then uh, if you don't take the this mana ability, it can kind of impact your mana sometimes. And I feel like also I'm super biased because I'm not an FPS background person, so I'm really not good at hitting with the life staff.
you just throw it at the clump.
Well, yeah, of course, I definitely agree. When you shoot at the point, it's easy.
It's all preference, so you'll see
Agreed.
a lot of the higher up healers hit intensify. They do two lights a heavy, then two lights a heavy, and try to just hit the heavies if they can. They don't prioritize it though.
Yeah, the cooldown for Intensify is really long. It's for 10 seconds. And if you take, what is this? The buff extension thing that you get when you're in group heals, then your Intensify is like 13 seconds long. So you really there's a lot of time to get it in. So I definitely agree. I know that our group healer, MK, takes all of the heavy attack perks, if I recall correctly. So I think I have some of them. No, I don't have it in my group heals build personally, but yeah, I definitely see. I think that the skill cap on healing is 100% associated with being able to hit your light and heavy attacks. To finish up on group healer, let's do the itemization and the stats. So for items, this is an enchanted ward build. You're going to want to make sure that you have your full refreshing. So you need 4 perks of refreshing. And then you need enchanted if you're gonna whatever your defensive perk is. Now let me go to NeuralDB for a second. Oops, I'm exposing myself here somehow, I'm sure.
Only that you love New World.
Of course.
Hey, I did have a question while you're looking something up.
Yeah.
When it comes to the AoE healers, so with a lot of us, I'm melee, of course, y'all know that, but just like to listen.
Mm-hmm.
Where is the AoE concentrating on as far as war? Like, are they aiming the heal? Or are they dropping on a specific person, like on a clump? Or where can I look for that when we're pushing more of the clump fights and whatnot?
So you're trying to ask like where are the AoE heals actually, and how do you identify where the AoE heals are?
Maybe not so much identify where they are, but like where. I mean, yeah, I guess in an instance, like where are they dropping like their sacred and stuff as like a point's being pushed pretty hard.
Right. So one of the things I'm gonna do also is go to. I wish this fort was open right now. I should have gone to a different fort that was actually open but I guess we have this point here. So I'll show on my stream here a little bit. So if we imagine that the point is here, like where I'm putting my sacred, then, really I think it has to do with where the clumps are. I think the AoE healer is trying to anticipate where the army is going and try to put their stuff there. Beacon attaches to something, so they try to hit somebody. So if they're going into the clump, then the heal goes with them. And then this Orb of Protection, this little guy, they aim it sort of at the floor, like this, so that when it explodes, it does a big AoE and it hits all the people there. So they're trying to hit the clump with that one specifically. And the Sacred, they really want to put, they're trying to lead the clump with it, ideally. Some people try to just, whenever there's like, oh, you see a bunch of allies get caught in a grav, you're just and your sacred is up here. That's the perfect place to put a sacred down, is right inside of that grav, or on an enemy or on an allied grav. Your ally catches an enemy in a bunch of enemies in a grav. You put a sacred right on top of that to protect your allies when they go in to finish that clump off.
I gotcha. I had one more question. You mentioned it right there. You said isn't it Beacon? Beacon's the one that attaches and follows, right?
Yep, this one I have on my queue right now. This one.
So it's my understanding that Beacon, if somebody dies and it's on them, that it will disappear. Would it be better to throw that on the ground as well? If
No.
you can?
I think in the past, Beacon would disappear when somebody died. Now it just sticks to the ground where that person died, is my understanding. I could be wrong, though. Generally, the strength of Beacon is because it does attach to people.
Yeah, that's what I've always liked about it as well. I wasn't sure if it actually did disappear when that player dies, or if it's stuck around still.
I think it attaches to the ground, as Pokey said.
And just to demonstrate the cooldown stuff, the cooldown reduction here, I have a life staff that has refreshing move on it. So I have 2.5 plus 5, 7.5% CDR on light attacks. So I'm going to shoot out my abilities here. And you can see, you can actually just like have 2 sacreds on the ground at the same time if you do this, because the CDR is so substantial. And 2 beacons. So it's really important to focus on just, getting your abilities out, and then just putting your abilities down. It's easy to be like, okay, I'm holding my ability, I'm looking for the opportune time. And within that entire time where you're looking for a good time to use your ability, you could have spent an entire cooldown. So, and that's something I had to learn. And like, once you start doing that, like, you will see your score go up. Because like, if you just use your abilities all the time, it's like a completely different ball game. Okay, so to return to the itemization for the group healer real quick. The thing you will always want to think about is, what is your damage absorption perk that's on your armor? You got to pick whichever one is ideal for your meta, for your role, for whatever. And right now, Enchanted Ward and Elemental Aversion are the 2 kings. We're moving. We used to be Enchanted Ward, and now we're moving more and more towards Elemental Aversion with the current Fire Staff meta changes with Season 4. A lot of people like Shirking Fortification, but that's definitely a high skill perk. But you only get one of these perks on your armor, so that's got to figure out which is the one that you're trying to stack, ideally. So for this Enchanted Ward set, we got Enchanted Ward on all the pieces except for the Featherweight. You got always build with Featherweight. This artifact is really, really strong for us healers. As a group healer, at least. As a group healer, you want to use Featherweight. Which is, the build for Featherweight is you have your Featherweight, a light pants, and then 2 of the rest of the pieces between head, gloves, and feet have to be heavy. 2 of them are heavy, and 1 of them is light. And then this freedom slot that I have on my gear here, this is a slot that is either freedom or health for people. And now health is becoming less popular with time, and freedom is becoming more popular, but this comes down to play preference. Health ends up being probably around 300 to 500 HP per perk, so it can be substantial depending on how much con you're playing and what your position is. For jewelry, you have to have Fortifying Sacred Ground on your armor, and then for group healer, you have Refreshing Divine Embrace on your life staff. The required life staff perks is Blessed, and then your flex slot is the 3rd perk. And so some people take Refreshing Remove, and some people take Purifying Breeze. Purifying Breeze heals you when you remove a debuff from an enemy, from an ally. So it adds potency to your splash of light on yourself, because you just always have a debuff on you. And then for your rapier, you want Sundering to Riposte at the minimum, and having Keen Speed is great also. And then the last ideal perk, the last best perk for the rapier in this situation is Keen, to make it your Sundering Riposte Keen Speed trigger more often. Heart Rune is always the healing heart room of stone form. Cleansing yourself from CCs and becoming immune to it is critical, because the only time you really die is if you get, stun locked and multiple people collapse on you, and this gets you out of that situation. In terms of jewelry, let's talk about amulet first. You have to have a protection of some sort, whether it's thrust or fire protection. Stamina recovery is so good, you gotta have it. And health is also very strong. The 7% is good. Some people are even playing the cooldown recovery in this slot, but I'm not brave enough yet to do that. For your ring, you need hardy and you need sacred for sure. And then in this third slot, there's debate about whether this should be Healing Breeze or to take one of the refreshings off your armor to get an extra defensive perk on the armor. I like Healing Breeze a lot, but it definitely can be argued that it's a stat padder ability. If you're a Shirking Heals user, this is a really funny ability. For Earring, this is most healers take a refreshing on their Earring for sure, but there's so many of the Earring perks are just not that great, so this is up to preference at the end of the day. I would suggest Fortifying Toast, because even though we're in light armor and Fortify doesn't do that much for it, the numbers on this are just so overtuned that it seems really, really strong. The last thing I want to say about armor is in that last flex slot for your armors, you want to play some kind of conditioning. And that's probably either thrust conditioning or slash conditioning or flame conditioning, depending on what you are dying to. On light legs, I like Shirking Energy, but there's a lot of debate over whether this is a good perk or not. So that covers group heals. Let's talk about, that covers group heals. Let's talk about AoE heal build for a second. I just got my Nimble Coat with the latest patch, so I didn't have an updated Nimble Coat build, but Nimble Coat is what you wanted, the artifact you want to be using for AoE heals. And I forgot about stats for group heals. Stats for group heals are 300. You start with 360 focus and 250 con. I'm missing a con thing here. Let me add this. Okay, now we have our con. So 300. You start with 360 focus, 250 con, and you can only play that build if you have 3 or less magnify pieces. So it's really important to minimize your magnify pieces. And then what's important is that this is actually minimum survivability for a group healer right now. If you start getting killed a bunch, then go up to 300 con, 300 focus. And then if even that is still not great, there are healers on EU who are playing 350 con, so because they have really high damage in that world. So if you feel empowered to respec during war if you're dying too much, because life staff is busted and it needs to get nerfed. So you can still heal very effectively with 300 focus. It's fine. Then for the AoE healing, I said Nimble Coat, and the armor perks are basically the same thing. And then for stats wise, somebody could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think AoE healers are trying to play 500 focus with 110 con, but I could be wrong. In terms of items and buffs and consumables, you got to have your stat food, eat your mana regeneration food, eat a trade skill food because it gives you a small health regen, eat a desert sunrise to help you against those fire staves, and if you're really min-maxing, eat a topaz potion because it also is associated with a tiny little health regen that adds up. For your consumable slots, you're going to take a health potion, cleanse potion, some type of defensive consumable, whether it's an absorption potion, oak flesh, or gemstone dust, and then a flex slot, which some people play regeneration serums, or some people play health potion or mana potions. I like mana potions personally because I haven't been able to figure out how to use my abilities on cooldown with serums yet. But there's a lot of people, but the high level players have success with serums. So, for gemming, most players use onyxes and opals, and they have a pretty even split of like 10% across the board. I personally like having a lot of opals or a lot of rubies because of the fire staff situation right now. But also you have to worry about hitting the empower cap or the defensive empower cap. I don't know what the right wording is for that. Okay, so that covers itemization and the specific builds. I'm just going to take a pause right here because I just talked about a lot of stuff. Does anybody have any questions about the itemization? Oh, I forgot one thing about the AoE healer, or two things, the weapon perks. You got to have mending protection on your life staff as the group healer, because that is it's really good. It's plus 40% healing when you heal somebody under 50%. So it's really this is the reason that AoE healers are able to score so high on their on the scoreboards. So let me do, this is the AoE healing thing, and let me change this to let me do this. We'll do the Void Gauntlet, because the secondary for the AoE healer is a Void Gauntlet. And you take, this is your main healing spell, because when you shoot the orb out on its return path, it puts a 6-second heal over time. That is actually very substantial. And you can actually explode the orb by pressing the button again, whether it's on the outgoing path or the return path, to do a second effect of the type of orb that it is right there. So detonating the orb on the path back is just a really big heal. It is kind of the single target heal that you have access to as an AoE healer, because it's your biggest single burst. So you see somebody who's low, you shoot the orb towards them, it bounces, it comes back, and as soon as it touches them, you tap the button again to explode it. It's like as big as a Divine Embrace. So, and then you got Oblivion and Scream. Scream is your defensive ability, but maybe you are going to confirm kills with it. And Oblivion can also be used as a defensive ability due to the weaken that it puts on the people who are in it. Additionally, the thing to always remember about Void Gauntlet, is that crits reset its cooldown, and it has a bunch of built-in CDR from that. So you can really do some if you can get a lot of orbs out if you scream a clump to reset the orb's cooldown. So there's some really interesting micro stuff you can do with the Void Gauntlet as AoE healer. Okay, now it's time for war strategy. So let's start with high level positioning. Sort of the core thing that happens in war is everybody runs out of this is, I'm assuming, a Cutlass Keys defense, because that's what our territory is right now. So what happens is the core of war is that everybody runs forward and they crash into each other, and they run forward and then try to take over the point. And you end up in this kind of situation where all the melees are beating the crap out of each other here in the middle of B, but you have the whole back line that's trying to fight against each other. And you don't know whether it's going to rotate around one direction or rotate the other direction. And the healers have these two safe spots here. They're sort of like in the back, in the cluster, in front of the bows, but behind the melees still, where they're still protected by lots of allies, and they're safe spots that are still good to be in. But as it turns out, that rotation, these two corner spots, these fights that are happening between our the quad groups and the kill teams and everything, those resolve in some sort of fashion, which means that these circles are going to rotate in some way. So let's say we get some rotation this way, and because this is usually what ends up happening, and 1 is really the healer's safe pocket, and 2 ends up not being safe. They rotate a little bit more, and then that's no longer a safe spot there, and now we're putting pressure in their backline, but they're also putting pressure in our backline, and the fight has come to the edge of the healer pocket. And you end up with those, this group that plays over here ends up getting the brunt of a lot of that pressure in the strong attacks, because they get pushed through compared to, as the circle is rotating over. When you're in this position and you get pushed through, you really have to know where are the safe spots to push out towards. And pushing into your allies is always going to be a safe, or not always necessarily, but a much safer thing. Blue is safe generally. You're in the crowd, you're a safe spot as a healer. But sometimes you need to rat away if this is not a good fight, and you can escape backwards if you need to, or escape into the woods. But this is where the kill team should be fighting. I guess the kill team is fighting in here in this example, but yeah, you got to have awareness of where you need to be escaping to in that sense. If also sometimes these on some like maps, because all of the wars are really different for a lot of small complex reasons, but sometimes these spots up on the rampart are good rat spots for a healer, and you can still reach the point with all your stuff there, but you are exposed to the bows and stuff. When you do get into fort, it's important to always think like a rat. Get up on the ramparts, maybe find a DPS on your team to escort you up on top, and then you can heal people without being under threat. You're trying to take control of this backstage very often, because that's a pretty free spot where your back can be up against the wall and you won't get threatened. You can see to your left and to your right pretty easily. A good spot to be able to heal down here to the point. But yeah, so that's sort of like a high level. I just want to set that context about how war goes and how the pressure moves to sort of inform how these roles go and how the rest of the discussion is. So I talked about this a little bit while we were in the fort, but you want to use your abilities on cooldown. You reset your cooldowns with your light attack. And for that reason, when you're looking at like war statistics, look at your damage number, because your damage number is really going to reveal how successful you were at putting as many abilities down as possible. Because independent of your role, independent of whether you've got beacon on your bar or whether you've got mending protection on your life staff, your score will go up if you're resetting your cooldowns a bunch and you're putting your abilities out all the time. But at the same time, if you've got a low healing score and a high damage score, maybe you weren't using your abilities enough. All right, okay, so I just want to talk real quick about the different roles we have as in the war composition. We've got our point teams who are taking the point themselves, and then we've got the quad teams off on the sides. And we got our AoE, who's kind of chilling back here somewhere, hopefully, and then our kill squad, who is kind of off in the woods like this, if we've got B over here in this spot. So just to talk about each of them real quick, the quads, quad healer is going to live in the healer pocket here and take care of the people on the point. Really, you don't get to go off adventuring. You're taking care of whoever is the big beefy boy, and also pocket healing the AoE healer and keeping an eye on them, because you're all working as a team together. Probably it's those two teams hopefully are in a group call all together. These quad healers and these quad teams, those are the kill fight win teams. Those guys are getting down and dirty. They're getting pressured constantly. If they're on strong side, if they're on weak side, they're pushing forward, they're falling back. They have to play really tight. But they flex sometimes. They go off on adventures. It's a pretty stressful spot, but that's what the quad healers end up doing. AoE healer, I like to call that rat mode activate. That's like you try to get your abilities out as often as possible. You try to reset your cooldowns. You try to not get under pressure. If you get under pressure, you escape as soon as possible. You really have to. So much of the army depends on you as an AoE healer that you really have to prio your life to a huge extent, and pay attention to the army, to the respawn clock. Because if you're dead for 30 seconds as the AoE healer, the army's just straight losing. So in competitive wars, the AoE healer is just getting their name is known before the war begins, and there's a team who's looking for them as a priority target. We're in a meta game right now where it's like healer trading. So if you can kill the enemy healers before they can kill your healers, you are 100% winning the fight. So a lot of focus is on that right now. As for the kill squad, to talk about that real quick again. The two kill squad healers are really playing like rats, similarly to the AoE healer. They are hiding in the back. They're behind the bows as opposed to in between the bows and the aggro people, because there's a big aggressive fight. This is the highest status kind of fights. This is the PvPers. This is the people who are trying to show how big what they got in their pants are. And this is a very scary place. So the healers really need to play their lives and really aggressively call the situation because they have unique eyes on it. And to that point, I think it's important to also call out, this is something I should have brought up earlier, but as a healer, you have I have a bullet point below for this, so I'll talk about it then. Continue to talk about healer war macro for a second. I want to talk about consumables. You got to use consumables. This is like the classic war VOD review feedback, is you got to use your consumables more. Cleanse potions are crazy. They are so good. You have to use them. It's like you see something serious happening, you use a cleanse potion. You see there's like one guy who is trying to use a CC on you, you use a cleanse potion. You get 3 of them. They're so cheap. They're so good. It's like another stone form that you can pre-use. Like it gives you immunity for like 5 seconds or something. They're so crazy. Use these a lot. Pre-use your defensive one. If you're using absorption potions, they last for 30 seconds. You only need 20 absorption potions to use it on cooldown for the whole war, and you need 30 dust or balm to use it on cooldown throughout the war. So just like make sure to have 30 or 20 of those in your inventory, and don't be afraid to use them. Like the attitude we need to have for winning war is like, don't think about resources, don't think about coin. It's like, we need to be as tanky as possible at all times. And I think there are top level people who are just like, they huff that dust on cooldown, you know? It's like they're not even in a fight, and they have the defensive cooldown up. So, or especially for the absorption potions, because those they're on for 30 seconds.
Were you saying the dust?
Lasting consumptions works for that as well if you have it.
Oh yes, the good point.
Yeah.
If you have you need the bag perk for lasting consumption, because it makes the
You don't need it, but it helps.
well, yeah, it helps a lot. I don't have them yet, and I still need to get that. It makes the buff from your defensive consumables last longer. Were there any comments before I go over to comms? Okay. So the most important thing, I think, as a healer is that you have a unique view on the fight, being in the back, having eyes on what the melees are doing, keeping an eyes on your DPS, keeping eyes on your support. You have a unique perspective because everybody else is looking down the end of their weapon, trying to get kills. You have eyes on how the fight is moving, how things are rotating. You can see, as a healer, much better this rotation that's happening and what's coming to be scary more than the DPS can a lot of the time. So, like, you have to talk about that. You have to say it out loud. And to that point, your group synergy is so important. You need to, like, be friends with your group. You need to have flowing comms. You have to, like, not be afraid to be saying something. Like, you need to feel safe to, like, fuck up. You need to feel safe to say something dumb. And it's okay because, like, more words in a lot of situations is better than less words. And like building that synergy and building that comfort it will really pay off because, you know, having 10 eyes as opposed to 2 eyes on what's going on is much more valuable. In terms of communicating all of that, it's finding the right words and the right like culture within your group to be able to communicate that stuff quickly and effectively in the war is really valuable. So I think that it's an exercise that every group needs to figure out for themselves. But at a high level, the one recommendation I can give is to figure out how to communicate what kind of pressure you're under as a healer. So specifically to be able to say no heals, as in like I don't have any cooldowns, so they're not going to get healed, versus no heals because I'm under pressure, as in there's 2 guys who are attacking me and I've got to use my cooldowns on myself, and so they're not going to get healed. Because the reality is that it's not your team's responsibility to peel for you. It's their responsibility is to go win the fight. And it should be rare that your fighters are pulling back to protect you. And really, you should be going forward to meet up with them so that they can be protecting you by default because the fight is killing the people who are pressuring you. Because healers get pressured by squishy people, usually. And if you're dying to a heavy disruptor, like we got to work on micro skills. So you should like a good thing to drill is like get your friend to be in a heavy disruptor build and practice like healing your third friend while the heavy disruptor tries to kill you, you know, and just like pretend like they're not there, like pretend like they don't exist, like they're a mob that's trying to bother you. But yeah, so it's like not anybody's job to peel from that heavy bruiser. But if you got 3 people on top of you, you can bring them forward to the fight, and then your team can get kills on them. Or you can tell your team, hey, I'm under pressure. Hey, I'm dealing with this. You're not going to get healed right now. And maybe that will incentivize your team to come and help you. But like you have to work a lot with your team to figure out what is the balance of that for everybody, because at the end of the day, I think it's going to be different for every team and depends on what the priorities of the people, like why they play New World, etc. So work, and to that point, you got to figure out how to spend as much time playing with your group outside of the war as possible as well, because that pays off in spades. Other stuff you can calm is what your cooldowns are. So let's say your Sacred is on cooldown and you say, oh, I've got Sacred in 3 seconds, Sacred in 3. And then so that they know, okay, this is a good time to engage. They can start a clump, and then there'll be a Sacred there for them shortly. You could say that you're holding your abilities so that they know that they're safe to engage. You could say that you're using your Sacred or your Beacon outside of the group so that they know they're not going to be safe for a little bit. But sometimes you've got downtime, and sometimes you know that there's a fight that you can help with. A good thing to get into the habit of is pinging when you put your Sacred down. And that's like a good habit to get into in general. As the healer, you have this unique perspective, so you should always be able to tell your group when they're playing apart from each other. You can see when they're off being rats, like one person's chasing one guy, and be like, hey, Valak, get back over here. Stop chasing that one guy. And then, or like, Killa, you're out there by yourself. We need your support over here. So that's you kind of end up being the mom of the group in a lot of senses. I like to think about the healer as the insurance plan of the group. It's like your job to make sure everything is working correctly, and if somebody makes a mistake, you correct the mistake by healing them. Or like, so to that role that kind of healers end up playing, and I think the archetype that a lot of people who choose to equip a life staff is like try to take care of the group, try to make sure everybody's being responsible and doing what's right.
An idea from a bruiser's perspective is that if we are calling our detonates, let us know if you have Sacred or you do not, because then we know when we have to get out. If we go in for a grab dead and we don't have Sacred, our immediate response is get the fuck out. While if we do have a Sacred, we might stay in. You know what I mean? Good things to know. It's like if we're going in and I have Sacred in 3 seconds, we're going to delay that for 3 seconds. You know what I mean?
Yep.
While cooldowns in 10... we know we're not having it, but the fucking clump's there. We're going to hit it, and we're going to get out. It's good shit to know.
That
If I
makes
may,
sense.
since we've moved into comms a little bit, one thing that I like to do with my group, if I have somebody who's being quiet on me, I ask them questions, right? I'm only a couple of minutes in, and I'm asking my healer, hey, what kind of pressure are you getting? Are you feeling safe back there? Are you really under a lot of pressure? And I'll do that with any other person in my group that's not talking to me. I'll say, hey, Fury, what's going on? How you feeling? You feel like you're strong today? You know, what's it looking like out there? Just anything to get them to start to talk back. And also when it comes to my healer, I work with my 5-man, so I know my guys, right? I know that when my healer says a certain thing, that's when I need to really start to perk my ears up and start to listen to what he's saying, because he's under pressure or he's exhausted. My BBIG or BB fire staff can't protect him any longer, and he's beginning to panic. And now it's my turn to come back and try and help. And if it goes any further, maybe we call in a bruiser, or we all start moving towards the same direction, right? I'm coming back a little bit. My healer's coming to me and my bruisers. So we're all working together. And that's something that just comes with synergy. But if you can do the little things, like I said, try and coax them a little bit. Get them to talk if they're not the talkative type. Tell them, do you got your debt ready? You got a Sacred? I'm going deep. Do you got one for me? That kind of a thing.
I'm going to add to that as well, is let us know where you're playing. Because, the battlefield, it's chaos. And sometimes, if you're asking for a peel or something, we don't know where you are half the time. And it takes a few seconds to register where you are. So if you let us know we're playing to the left of you, I'm playing left side of point right now, I got the pressure on me, we can always turn around and throw a path at you. which will slow the enemies down, stun them, and enough time for you to get away. But we need to know where you're playing, because we can't just all of a sudden open up a map, look around. All that time wasted means more time you're taking damage. So it'd be nice to know, like, if you're playing up a bot, you're playing, bottom left of point, or top left of point, or wherever you're playing. We can always spin around and throw a path to peel for you.
It's okay to find yourself lost for a minute. Just ask somebody. Say, hey, man, where is everybody? Hey, Jacoby, do you see where I'm at? Where's Fury? I don't see him. That kind of a thing. Just talk, communicate, comms.
Yep.
I
Great
would like
points.
to add, I know when you were talking about the amulets earlier, about the protections and whatnot, a lot of the kill squad guys I've been seeing, like chasing Jacoby in war, have been like great swords and stuff like that as well. So that's also not a bad thing to have. Maybe slash protection on an amulet.
I've seen that as well in like as third most common behind flame and thrust, and maybe it'll become more common if there are less bows, if thrust is less popular.
I don't know. I'm crap when it comes to my healing set. I got 20 slash, 20 thrust, 20 fire. I don't know what the fuck to run.
Well,
You're crazy, Valak.
so next topic is movement, and that's moving around during the war. And I talked about that a little bit with the raid plan overview. But I think another thing that's really important to talk about is when you're moving and you're repositioning, get your rapier out, because you're not going to be light attacking and moving slow like this. So get your rapier out so that if you get under pressure, that you can use your cooldowns right away. And also think about similarly to using your life staff cooldowns on whenever they are up. Think about using your rapier cooldowns whenever they're up, because if you're just moving 50% faster than everybody else in the war, that's a huge advantage in a lot of different situations. Now, if you're in a safe spot, of course, you don't need to be using your rapier cooldowns, but the rapier is like really strong. So make sure to take it out if you need to.
Yeah, so wherever you feel comfortable safe casting, just be aware that, you've probably been there for a while. You are a target. If there's a bunch of healers around you and you're all healing, that's a target. Just remember, blues are worse than reds.
One of the last topics I want to cover is how to practice outside of wars. And the suggestions I have for that is to do OPR with 4 friends, whoever they are, and just practice talking the whole time. Talking about what you're doing, calming, just practice that free-flowing, being in the zone kind of, and like not being anxious about opening your mouth or taking up space or whatever. Like get your head into it. Better than that is OPRing with your war group. I know we're not yet at a lot of super solid war groups that are very consistent, but even if you can get 2 or 3 people who you've played with a couple of times, that's a huge thing. Because if you can figure out how everybody what words you want to use to talk about different spots. If maybe there are people you play with who don't like top left, top right, and they want to use bonfire or our bon or their bon or whatever, you got to figure out what is going to be right for the people you play with often. On top of that, something that's valuable for healers is just practice playing in the clump. Instead of going into Soul in OPR and running up onto the rafters immediately, go try playing on the point and practice, being chased by 2 swords all the time, and you have to flip between your rapier and evade and flesh around and then shoot out a couple abilities and then get your rapier back out and run away again. And just get into the habit of that, because in war you're under pressure all the time, and it's really hard to get reps in that are like war. Another suggestion along that is go try to solo back cap as a healer, and just try to fight 1,000 people at the same time. You won't have success most likely, but just practicing those core things and understanding, this is the kind of thing I should be afraid of, or this is the kind of scenario that is lethal, or this is the kind of scenario that's not lethal, is really valuable to recognize so you can make good decisions during war.
It gives you an idea of how long you can stay alive and what kind of pressure you can take and still be, workable. And then you find out the limit of what's not workable anymore, what's too much. When do I really have to panic and get the hell out of there? The other thing about OPRs, listen, you guys are healers. All you got to do is say OPR, and there's going to be guys banging down the door to play with you, right? Everybody's looking for a healer to play with in OPR. So you can definitely get your reps in, and be mindful that we get better reps in as a company in general, as a whole, if you guys are doing more OPRs with us, so to speak. Not to put any pressure on you guys, but you know what I mean? It's hard to get guys to go in there and get their ass whooped as a bruiser over and over again without a healer.
You want to live a stressful life in OPR? Come with me. I'll put you through shit.
Yeah, I mean, also like queuing at the same time as the
Wait, who said
company,
that?
such that you have company mates on the enemy team, is great training as well because they love to focus us, and that's very fun.
Absolutely. And I mean, you put X in OPR as a healer, and guys like Big Stepper Ray ain't even logged in, and he smells that like Spidey sense, and he'll come get in game with you.
You know, one thing that Riddle brought me aware of is positioning. Like one more we did together while I was point bruiser is Valak, you're at range. And that means he's not going to move up to heal me and put himself in a shitty position. He's telling me to pull back, right? So
Yeah.
that's very good info to know, because I know when I'm overextending, he's letting me know I'm out of range, I can't get healed, and he's not going to come fucking to me and put himself in a dangerous position to heal me. So it knows I have to come back in order to get heals, which keeps your group where you want them to be. Basically, as a healer, you have control of where your group is going.
Jacoby tells me that all the time. Killer, you're too far. Get back here. And I'm on my way back. And maybe he's lying to me. Maybe it's because I'm out of position, right? And he knows there's danger coming. But I listen to him every time. Okay, I'm coming back. I need those heals.
Yeah, that's how you control your group as a healer. If you see them fucking getting a little too much ego, you always say that to pull them back into position. Because I know I do it too. I ain't gonna lie. I charge the respawns because I'm an animal, but
Yep, and to that point, I think it's valuable to play other classes to understand their mentality so that you can help make good decisions about how to communicate with them and how to predict what they're going to do. I wanted to talk a little bit about single target healing, but I think that we're just coming to an hour here. So I think we can leave the micro stuff outside of this because, I don't want to need to talk about UI stuff as much, I think. But if I'm going to do single target training as well because that's been suggested by a couple people. So if you're interested, please post in the healer channel for that.
I'd also like to make a suggestion. I don't know if you've talked about this yet, Poke, but healers, your life is the most important thing in your group.
Yep, I've talked about that.
Never mind then.
Yeah, if healer dies, everybody else dies.
Yeah, so if you have to lose a couple teammates to keep yourself alive, do it. As long as you're alive, your group's alive. But,
And that'll teach them to look out for you a little bit better, too.
yeah, the bastards.
Yep.
You should be the last one dying in your 5-man.
Right. Or if you're staggered, your team needs to understand that they can't play without you, and if you die, they need to leave the fight and get ready to re-engage once you're alive.
Yeah, you're also the respawn beacon where the squad spawns on you. Get everybody back together and get them back out there.
Sometimes you can rely on another healer who's out there in the field, but then you're naturally putting pressure on their team as well because, you can't use their cooldowns on that group as well. But that covers all the topics that I had in my preparation for this. So if there are any topics that people want to talk about that I didn't bring up, or we can go to Q&A.
Poke, change that skin for the love of God.
This 2-year-old ancient skin.
You talked about peels earlier.
Yes.
Get to where you don't have to be peeled. That
Precisely.
makes sense. Like if you have one person on you, you're going peels. I can't heal. Then you could be able to kite that one person and still heal a group, even 2.
Okay, I want to talk a little bit about healers. Keep in mind when you do get pressure, you got to take it to the point. You got to take it to your damage. You have to take it to your bruises. You can't go running off in the middle of nowhere heading to the ocean. Nobody's getting heals that way, and we don't have that kind of range anymore. We only got 50 meters at best. Running off you might have stayed alive, but running off to the middle of nowhere while 3 guys are chasing you is doing nobody any good at all. You're literally just going to run them until they stop chasing you. All that time spent.
What I want to say isn't really in regards to like healing in particular, but I know a lot of times our healers are rotating with the enemy and healers in war. So if those healers can call out the other healers on the other side, it helps people get on top of those healers and take them out even faster. You know what I mean? So like I'm sure Poke, you probably rotate around 3 or 4 healers every, couple of minutes. If you're like, hey, so and so's right here, that kill squad can get them, and then rotate on to the next one.
Absolutely. Like we had in the last defense, there were so many healers up here in the enemy team, or two wars ago. They all blur together. When we were back left quad, and there was so much pressure, and there's all the healers clumped up over here. It was delicious. We called it out. We saw it. Yep. The healer has a unique set of eyes on the battlefield, and you have to be able to identify it and communicate it to your team, because those axe wielders, they love looking down the end of their axe, and that's a cone in front of them versus this broad battlefield view we got here from left to right. You're sitting in the healer pocket right here, healing the guys that are right over here.
Can I make a comment?
Please, Merker.
I'll say something. I feel there is potentially also a bit of a difference in like which kind of group you're playing. Like, I listened very carefully, and it got a bit. I got a bit distressed by the point where it was said, like, as a healer you should not ask for POs. I think if you're playing point team, there is many times there is no way how you can run into your group and not run into more enemies. So I think it's fair, at least out of my perspective, I think it's fair sometimes at least to ask for POs or ask for support if you're literally being surrounded by enemies.
You see, a lot of that can't happen. If we come back and peel for you, we lose everything we just fought for. That's the thing. And if you don't like that...
When it comes to the terms of peeling and non-peeling for healers, especially in this, I guess, meta, as you would call it, when I'm calling for, like, help or saying, hey, I'm being pressured, I don't expect, like, the people who are on clump or in points, like Fury or anybody to like come and help me. What I am asking for is someone who's like Turtle or Killa, who can throw an AoE around my way, or throw an AoE, say, hey, I got a Oblivion over here, or they call out their Oblivions, and I can run enemies into that, and then that kind of disrupts them, or makes people go away. So if Killa has an ice shower and I'm being pressured by 3 or 4, he'll throw an ice shower, I'll run into it, or he'll throw it on me, and they will disperse away from me. So it's that type of the pills that I call for or I ask for. Now, obviously, if your bruiser has time and they just coming, then you can ask for a pill. But yeah, it's kind of hard for the 2 bruisers that are on main point or on in their clumps to not be stunned and come out and pill for you. So when I call, that's what I'm asking for.
A lot of things too. A lot of things you can consider. If we are taking space already, it's a good time. We can still do stuff. But if we are being pressured hard, and it's busy, we most likely won't be able to do anything.
I think that also comes into the terms of people need to be more situationally aware, like bruisers who are coming out of respawns or anything like that. One war I was being pressured by 3 guys, and I ran it into a blunderbuss person, and they just ran straight past me. So those peels as well, I call them peels, but those helping people who you see need help is big for the team in general as well,
You don't have to kill your healer's pressurer or stalker or whatever you want to call him. You don't got to kill him. You just got to give your healer a little time to maybe get into a different position where he's safe, or just the hot second that you need to stun or root the bad guy. Those little squishy guys, they're like little thieves, right? They just want to get in there and they're going to harass your healer and shit. But as soon as they see Big Brother turn around and put some pressure on them, or I throw my ice at them, like, I know you're there, you motherfucker, they'll take off to a target where they don't feel that pressure, right? They'll go for somebody easier. They're not going to waste a lot of time doing that.
I think that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying all the bruisers have to turn around and then like
Okay.
hit on the one great sword that is hitting on the healer. What I'm talking about is like help the healer at least to like take some pressure off if it's a pass of destiny or if it's like an ice shower or anything that helps me to
Yeah, without
like
a
get
doubt.
ahead of the three people which are pursuing me. That helps. But
If there's an opening,
if you come with the attitude of like, yeah, you're a healer, you have to take care of yourself, and the healer is being pounded on by like 5-6 people and being like spawn camped the whole time, that's harsh.
I can understand that. I understand that.
I don't mind guiding my healer in. I don't mind
And
running back to the spawn and fucking walking my healer back up to where he feels safe.
Yeah, I mean, if the healer is getting
Yeah.
camped, then then the team needs
If
to
it-
fall back because the team needs to play as a
Absolutely.
5.
You're going to have to play as a tighter 5. There, you don't have as much a leash or room for zone. You don't have control of your zone, so you're going to have to be playing close together to get control of that zone. And you're right, Merc. We can do a better job. At one time, it was really good idea, and it helped a lot for us to teach to just play, and you can't save your buddy. But now we need to emphasize that you do got to help your healers. You do got to give them buy them some time. You don't have to stop and fight for them all day long, but you do got to be weary when you're running past one, right? We can work on that, Mark. No worries.
I have a clip to show from a fan submission.
It definitely looks like a Suzu.
I think also
Double
something
single has to be.
Go ahead, Mark.
I think also something to keep in mind is that like some healers are more hunted than other healers, or I don't know if it's like because they're known, their names are known, or because of the position they're like the team they're playing in. I don't know, but if you look at the like stats, you can definitely identify which healers are constantly being harassed.
Yeah,
Well,
that's a really
usually-
great point, and that's something.
Usually they know poke. Like 90% of the time, PFR they always like focus. Poke.
Sure.
They definitely know me as well from 3v3 OPRs and even from PvE dungeons.
Yeah, so one thing I want to speak to about this is a really important thing that happens in I think an important mental model to take in New World is like, what are the incentives of the person who is attacking you? It's like, why do they want to attack you, and why do they keep doing it? And so a strategy that a lot of people who get attacked a lot have is to have a high enough con pool or a high enough HP pool such that when you take a like a 10k heavy attack, that your health bar doesn't actually move via what the enemy is seeing. And so it's a huge disincentive for them to continue pressuring you because it's not fun for them. They don't get dopamine from landing that huge heavy attack on you. And so that's like, to that point, the people in the other... the enemies are always trying to figure out who are the targets who are the most valuable for them, who are the most effective use of their time to go after. And if they know that there's a healer that they can just one-shot or just execute, they're going to find that name, and every time they see that name, they're all going to turn and shoot that person because it's so easy to get that kill. And so if that's the situation, then those people end up getting focused. So, and even if your name is known, if you can escape, if you can prove and have a strong enough disincentive for people to attack you, then you can get out of those kind of situations.
But okay, I want to counter this a bit. Like, I have roughly a HP pool from like 90 to 20,000, so I'm fulfilling more.
I'm speaking to all healers when I'm talking.
Okay, I still would like to throw this in
Please.
into the room. It's I don't think it's fair to say, and I'm not only speaking for myself, I'm also speaking, I hopefully also speak for other healers. I don't think it's fair to say that they're going after the weakest player. I think they're going after the players, potentially like the healers for the point team, because the point team, that's where either the point is being taken or not. And potentially the kill squad. Like, these are, I think those are like the hottest healers being under pressure.
Hey, Merc.
This being said, at least in my case, when I am being harassed, I'm not only being harassed by one person. I'm at least harassed by 3 people, and most of the time it's like up to 5 or even more people which are harassing me. So I don't think it's fair to say it's like they're going after the easy kill. They're definitely going after the high value targets, which are the healers. No matter, and I'm not saying like it's me. I'm saying it's like the healers, and just to like circling back, I just want to again clarify. I'm not asking for the bruiser team or for the point team to like drop all their shit, turn around, and then help the healers. What I'm asking for is exactly what was said earlier, like drop an ice shard, drop in like a pass of destiny, anything that allows the healer to gain distance between the 5 people chasing them, and them maybe either running into their team or running away from them or just survive.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think that it's really important that when a healer is under pressure, that if the other people in the party have resources that are something that has a lower cooldown, something like Path of Destiny, to use that so that you can stagger the people who are attacking the healer, so that the healer has a better chance of escaping. I think that makes a lot of sense. Something like using Gravwell, I think, is not on the table because of how high impact Gravwell is. But if you're in a situation where the healer is really getting heavily focused, then maybe it is time to use the Gravwell to help make sure that the healer can make it into position into the healer pocket. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, it takes a lot of reps. It takes a lot of like working with your group and figuring out what is the right way for the play styles of the people in the group to make sure that everybody in the group is successful. I have this clip here that got sent in that we're going to show. I'm excited to see. You see a kill squad. This is kill squad rotating around, getting pushed around. We have respawns protecting the healer. We see that here's the fire staff that's coming to threaten and getting away. He's got to heal himself.
The only issue I see with him right here is he's so far away from everybody else. Where if he didn't have Dex people in his party, his bruisers would be dead right now.
He doesn't have bruisers. This is kill squad.
This is kill squad.
No, I know. I'm saying this clip. Not all healers can run like this. Their bruisers would be completely dead.
Yeah, but this kill squad. What kill squad does is they peel wide instead of towards the point. That's what they want to do. That's what they're taught to do. The more they peel wide, the enemy's forced to chase while their teammates can hit them in the back. You know, it's
I
all
think
part of the
what
strategy there.
What I'm commenting on is how the healer is, not about the kill squad or who the kill squad or what they're doing is. If it's this group specific, Isu has Dex in his players. If it was Fiery and it was 2 bruisers, basically, my group, group 6 or whatever, they would be dead. If I traveled way back in there, we have to play a little closer to the point. We can't run them all around the woods like that. That's going to aid lower. We won't be able to throw sacred grounds on them. We're not going to be able to heal them or splash or anything like that.
Yeah, I agree. That's like when you're on the point team, your maneuverability, your radius you can move is not as high as in this clip.
In here, when I'm getting
you have to stay close to the point.
Correct. I would have played more onto the upper end of the point. Sorry, my dogs. Upper end to the point, and even on the point, since it's our point, I would not have ran through the woods if I was a point team. Now, what Isus is doing is completely fine. He has Dex players. His party's not in any danger, but
yeah, and it's you're making a lot of really good points about the differences between different groups and what kind of pressure they're under, what kind of situations they need to adapt to. So we're definitely gonna have a sequel healer seminar to go over each different role that I went over before. You know, like the quad groups, the point groups, the kill squad groups. And to review, you know, how to escape, how to appropriately peel, what are the situations that are right to peel for each of those different groups. So I think that is a really good piece of feedback for us to take action on.
One other thing to say is, like, if you're in a kill squad, and especially like in this clip, looking at this clip, you had like 2 in the maximum, maybe 3 people on you. Mainly it was the fire staff. Fire staff is really like harsh, but it was mainly you were fighting or trying to escape from like 1, maybe 2 people. Sometimes a third jumped on you. If you're on the point team, you should, at least in my experience, you at least have 3 people on you, and usually in many cases I have like 5 and more people on me, and I'm surrounded by even more. So no matter where I'm supposed or where I can run, I will be running into more enemies. And I'm not trying to use this as an excuse. I'm just saying the reality of gameplay is different for whatever kind of group you're playing in.
Absolutely. I try to address that immediately at the beginning to say, like, yeah, this is everything. It's different, and everybody's in a different, unique situation. This is all generic stuff to try and be as a starting point for everybody to, begin from. But from there, of course, there are going to be differences and challenges. This is a scary fight over here. Okay, did anybody have any other topics that they wanted to bring up or any other questions before we bring this to a close? All right, fantastic. Thanks everyone for coming. This was so great. I'm so happy that everybody came. We had such good questions. We thought about a lot of new things. We covered a lot of ground, and I think we're going to be better off as a result. This is being recorded, so we're going to post it as well. But yeah, any closing comments?
Thank you, Mr. Pokazil.
Thanks, Poke.
Thank you, Pal Kapoo.
You guys are the best. You all deserve it. Thanks again.